This strikes me as so different from the work that you have done over the years, which is about helping people achieve their peak performance and largely looking inward at maybe personality attributes, emotions, relationships, things that are blocking people, all that stuff that they can really control if they're thinking about it in the right way.
Yes.
The markets are just, you can't control them at all. They're completely random. And so how do you reconcile that? I mean, you help get people unstuck, but the markets get stuck for a very long time sometimes.
Yes, they do. But your quality of life and your quality of finances is about controlling what you can control. And what most people don't know is that I've coached Paul Tudor Jones for 22 years. He made 200% back in 1987. We had the biggest, percentage crash ever still in history in a day. And he's not lost money in those 22 years since I started working with him. So I've learned so much from Paul as well as these other people. But also, what I do for Paul, what I do for other people is psychology is what controls all your financial decisions.
So you're helping him how to react and how to handle his decision making. You're not picking the stocks for him.
No, of course not. But I've figured out what the system was that he did when he was best, and then I've helped him to adapt that system over 22 years. My whole skill set is modeling. It's finding someone who's incredibly successful at something and then deconstructing what are the fundamentals that make that work, and then creating a psychology so you actually follow through. So it's consistent with what I've done all these years, just most people are unaware of that part of my work.
So we're in the 7th year of a bull market. Should investors be worried from a psychological standpoint?
I don't know if they should be worried, but they should be prepared.
Right.
Worried won't do you any good, but being prepared and making sure you're diversified, there's no question we're entering the 8th year of a bull market. There aren't many bull markets that last this long.
Right. I want to switch gears. In our cover story on you last year, we called you the CEO Whisperer. Yes. You advise many people, but I'm interested in your relationship with CEOs, and in particular, what is the sort of most common stumbling block that these super successful people who've built fortunes and companies and changed the world, what are their biggest issues, or what is their one biggest issue, I guess?
Well, it's different for everybody. If it's a CEO, there's two types of CEOs, obviously. There's the founder CEO, which is where I spend 90% of my time, because they're not hurting for confidence, and they can make things happen. You influence and touch them, you can touch millions of people, literally, at least tens of thousands. Mark Benioff, it was really giving him the capacity to make the decision originally, giving the decision-making frames so he could say, I'm going to leave and start this business. He came to me and said, 3 of my events in a row, and said, because of you, I'm leaving. I'm starting this firm, Salesforce.com. We're going to do $100 million. And I teased him because he's doing $8 billion this year on the way to 10. Somebody like, let's say, Peter Guber, he had some decision points when he's chairman of Sony. Do I stay here with the general's car or the head of all this, or do I go start my own component? So it's usually coming with decisions. And then when you help somebody at that level, oftentimes it becomes a lifelong relationship. So I've been coaching Mark for 15 years. Peter Guber, he coaches me as much as I coach him, truthfully, at this stage, but it's been about 25 years.
Is there a single personality attribute that they all have in common, at least these founder CEOs?
They're all different, but the one thing they have in common is hunger. I always tell people, intelligence is so valuable, but there are lots of people who have tremendous intelligence and can't fight their way out of a paper bag. The hunger, that drive that doesn't go away. If you look at Richard Branson, he's a friend, he's as hungry today as when he began when he was 14, 15, 16 years old. And that hunger that makes you go to become more, to create more, to understand more, to want to add more value, do more for us than anybody else, the hunger that won't go away, that's what makes these superstars.
Speaking of leadership, we're in the middle of a presidential campaign. You may have noticed. What's your take on the current crop of candidates?
Oh my gosh. Well, I know many of them personally, so I know
even
Donald.
Better.
I know Donald very well. I know Mrs.
All right,
Clinton
let's take him
well.
for example. What you talk about human needs. I mean, that is your specialty. You understand what drives human behavior. So what are Donald Trump's needs?
Well, it's not hard to figure out. Significance is, pretty high up there on that list, being important and so forth. But I think if you look at the electorate, we throw our pendulum because we get tired or feel dissatisfied with the current system. We went from Bush, who seemed difficultly articulating things and people made fun of him, actually a very smart man, to we go to Obama, highly sophisticated, brilliant communicator. But people see him in front of a first grade class and he's reading his speech off teleprompters, doing it quite artfully, but still reading it. So people go, I'm tired of that. Nothing's working. I'm going to go with someone who's going to smash the system. And you see it with Bernie and you see it with Trump. You see it because, as we all know, there's tremendous frustration and anger out there, but there's also fear from terrorism. And so I love Bernie personally. I'm not saying I'm voting for him. I don't agree with him. I don't believe we should be Europe. I don't believe in 92% tax. I don't think it's going to make us more productive.
But you know Bernie, you've met him.
But what I love is he's authentic. What he says, he means, he believes it. That's refreshing. Trump gets up and says what he believes. That's what people like about him. And I think, for Hillary, she's in a place where that trust level isn't where it needs to be, but she's still going to win. And I think her biggest piece is, can she tear out that script and just go from the soul, from the heart about who I am, what I stand for, why I really want your vote. And I know she's more than capable of that because she does that one-on-one. Right. So it's going to be a very, very interesting time as we go here into
So if you could, I know, not because you know him, but because of what you do, if you could give Donald Trump one piece of advice, what would it be?
Donald will not take any advice he hasn't asked for. So you'd be wasting your time. I think you know that. Right? And Bernie's on a wild ride. I think Mrs. Clinton is the one I'd give the advice to because she's a brilliant leader and she is well prepared, but her style is getting in the way of her substance, and it's hurting.